So that's how Womenomics started out. But what it became really was a manifesto on the value of women in the workforce. And it is so well documented. There are now more than a dozen global studies that show that companies that employ more women in senior positions outperform their competitors by every measure of profitability, return on assets, equity, productivity. Everything goes up in companies that employ more women in senior positions. Pepperdine University did the first of these studies. They did a 19-year study of 250 Fortune 500 companies, and they found that there was a direct correlation between women in the C-suite and higher profits for companies and outperforming the competition. After that, Columbia University, Goldman Sachs, Catalyst, and a host of reputable organizations have done studies that come up with similar results. The closest study on causality of this, is there a direct link? Is it because companies are employing more women that they are performing better? It was actually done by the International Monetary Fund, and it was done a few years ago on a study of companies in Europe. And the head of the International Monetary Fund, Christine Lagarde, at the time, who was the first female head of the IMF, was super keen to do this study. And I interviewed her about it. And she said, listen, we cannot make the headline that companies are performing better because they are employing more women, but we have enough evidence that that is the case. And part of the reason for that is that companies that employ more women are basically making smart decisions, right? They're making smart decisions about talent. So they are opening the door to a wider selection of diverse talent. And there is now substantial evidence. There's a guy at Michigan University, a mathematician actually, who's done a fantastic algorithm on this, showing that groups, diverse groups, always produce a more satisfactory outcome to a complex business solution than homogeneous groups. Even if the men in that homogeneous group are individually better qualified or deemed smarter, whatever that might mean, you get a diverse group together and they come up with a business decision. You ask any CEO, you ask anyone who has dealt with a board of a public company, and you will find that they will say the diversity at the boardroom level leads to better management, better decisions, more interesting engagement than a lack of diversity at the boardroom level. By the way, Catalyst has come up with information on this. What it takes on a board is 3 women to make a difference. If you just have 2, it's hard to have the backup. Once you, 1 is very difficult. You are, saddled with the imposter syndrome. 2 is a little bit more difficult. 3, and the women have a kind of force in the boardroom that actually produces significant results in terms of the way that the board is managed. So the book became very much a look at the value of women in the workforce. There was a ton of evidence that women produce value, that this is no longer a kind of nice PC diversity issue. This is a bottom line issue.